colours. I'm using cobalt, and I've got a bit of a nice puddle of it. I can tell you again, alizarin and new gamboge, and I'm also going to use ultramarine, but not now. Okay. Now I've got a little note in my book, do some nice easy washes. So I thought, right, okay, we're going to do some nice easy washes. And obviously a reason that I decided we were going to do that. So I do have more of the cobalt than the alizarin and the new gamboge. I'm fairly happy with my drawing. I am using Arches paper, which I don't often use, but I didn't have a big sheet of Sanders, so, and it's also 300 gram. I have taken some wax and put some wax all the way around the edge, just some white wax, and I'm not sticking it down. So I said bring brushes, big square brushes, because this is also an exercise in using square brushes. So we're going to go on wet on dry, and we're going to start off by painting the whole thing with the 3 colours, but you'll see how I do it. So here's my cobalt, and everything that is I didn't want too much. I've just made a boo-boo there, but it's okay because it's only in the beginning. I wanted to put a little bit of the alizarin in there. Okay, so you can see that I'm allowing the washes to flow together. My board is on an angle. That's my alizarin. So the bottom part I am seeing as sand, and I'm also putting that yellow over his eyes. So when I get to the yellow, because I don't want it to be green, I'm literally jumping and hopping across. Okay. Going to go back to my, and I'm going to put a bit of that red over his muzzle, and I'm going to go back to the blue. Now I learned something. I was doing a demonstration, and I tend to paint very, very pale and do glazes like I'm doing now. And it was at night, and this has just reminded me because it's not dark enough. And you couldn't see what I was doing because the camera just wasn't picking it up. And I thought, note to self, go in darker. But I've done it again. Having said that, we don't want to put it in so dark that we can't see what we're doing. And also, the thicker you make your paint, the harder it is for that paint to flow together because we're going on dry.
I tried a painting at home.
And I haven't got enough of that, so I'll have to
in
just
this heat,
mix a bit more.
It dried.
Oh, yeah.
It wouldn't blend, it just dried.
You need to use a lot more water in this heat.
Yeah, I did use a lot, but it wasn't good enough. But it was really hot last week.
So, you see how I've got pink, yellow, pink. It will end up being sand colour. I did run out of my cobalt and I thought I had more than enough. So make sure that you have a fair amount of cobalt. You don't really want to be remixing like what I'm doing. Especially, right. So one of the things you need to notice is that once I'd start, oh, there's a bit of a, Okay, once I'd started, I didn't go back up there. I did the blue. Where I wanted blue, I did blue. If I wanted the pink, I put in the pink. And then I came this way and started the blue until it touched the pink. And then I lifted. Cleaned my brush on my tissue. I didn't wash it in here because if I washed it in there, I would be diluting that paint all the time. Or just cleaning it on my serviette. So it goes pink, blue, yellow. I've got some dry patches. I'm going to leave them. They'll all be covered up later. But what I've done is that is the underpainting for the whole picture. They're not going to stay blue. Okay, that is just setting the scene. I maybe wanted that more pink, but I haven't put it in that way, so I'll just leave it. I've got a bit of a funny thing going on there, but it doesn't matter. That's all part of it. So we're going to stop there. I'm going to concentrate on this hippo because basically what I do to this one is going to be done to that one. Okay, I have mixed cobalt and alizarin crimson, so it's a purpley colour because everything I paint ends up purple. And again, I'm going to make it slightly darker, so I'm just adding a little bit more paint, and I'm still using the square brush because the square brush enables me to be not quite so precise. So, and I don't want to be too... The minute you start picking up a small brush, you're going to become too precise. So all I'm doing at this point is putting another glaze on. I could, if I wanted to, make that a little bit more yellow on the back by remembering the minute I start painting, the whole thing becomes mine. Okay, so instead of just making it all purple, I've just put a little bit of the other colours in. I'm going to put a little bit more of that yellow into his ear, and then I'm going to put a bit of the red into it as well. Just a bit, just because I want his ear to go a little bit orangey colour down there too. And I'll go back to that purple, and I'm not doing any texture. Okay, might make that a little bit more blue, so I'm constantly changing that. I am keeping an eye on my picture, but I'm not putting any shadows in or anything yet. I'm still just building up, but I am looking at the under colour. So in other words, if I think the base colour's more pink, I'll put a bit more pink in, or if I think it's more blue, I'll put a bit more blue in. And that is entirely up to you. I don't want that to So it is only 300-gram paper that I'm using. Now, you see how that's starting to dry? So although I'm painting here, I'm keeping an eye on all my leading edges. And I don't want to paint that side. So I'm just softening that edge by taking the corner of my square brush and putting it on the leading edge and just allowing that damp paint to flow into clean water so that I can carry on. I don't know where that goes, I can't see it there, and paint. Make that a bit darker as we come here because I can. I'm making him a bit darker because he is going to be dark underneath there. Right. Be careful when you go in with the next colour that it is equal to or thicker than what's already there. Otherwise you could get a cauliflower. I'll put a bit of yellow in as well. The yellow won't stay yellow, it'll go an orangey colour. So I see the base of that as orange. I'll just put a bit more. Don't want too much more in here because what I want to do next is I'm going to put some masking fluid on those spots, on some, not all, just so that I end up with some that are light, some that are dark. I'll put a bit more blue on there. Now, if you remember, I damped that area. So I'm actually working into damp paper. Also notice how instead of going that way, because I'm painting the curve of his nose, my brush mark went at an angle. And that one, following the bridge of his nose, I followed the direction. And then I'm going to put a bit more because red comes towards you. So I might just corner of my brush. And I'm just going to put a little bit more dark light, yeah. So I'm going to keep him light there and keep that one dark. Right, so what I've done here, I don't mind, I've got a bit of hot dry brush there, but I would rather leave it. I could go in and fiddle, but I might get a cauliflower, so it's too dry, I'll leave it. So that is my next stage. From this stage, I'm going to start looking at my shadows and building up my shadows because I've now got some substance to him. And in painting my shadows, I will paint the rest of his body.
Would you be painting the other one the same?
Yes.
So you've got to mix.
Yeah. So once I've done that one, I'll go and do that one.
Right.
But I'm just doing that one because that one's done in exactly the same way.
Okay.
The only difference is I'm already thinking in my head that that's going to be dark. So this edge is going to be light. It's actually the other way around in the picture. So if it confuses you, do it according to the picture. But I'm not really looking at the picture. The only thing I'm looking at the picture for are shapes, especially when it comes to his ears, his nose and his eyes. Everything else is going to be what I think. That makes sense.